group of major powers, including the UN Security Council members, must guarantee Ukraine's security. Let's listen into what he has said.
Regards the security guarantees for Ukraine, those principles proposed by Ukrainian delegation, I underline this once again, they provided for creation a group of guarantors. This group containing of permanent members of the Security Council, Russia, US, China, UK, and France. Plus, they mentioned Germany, Turkey, and any other country which would be interested to join this group of guarantors. And guarantors would be guaranteeing the security of Ukraine, which must be neutral, which must be non-aligned with any military bloc, and which must be non-nuclear.
Meanwhile, in Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky has attended a key defense forum on the nation's Independence Day. Alongside Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, the meeting focused on strengthening Ukraine's defense ties with Western allies, showcasing the latest in Ukrainian military advancements. Let's listen into what President Zelensky has said during the forum.
We know each other very well, and we had so many meetings together, and I think that the result of all our meetings is understanding each other. We are very thankful for your support. We are very thankful to your nations. First of all, we are very thankful to your leaders, governments, and to yourself. Thank you so much for your long-term support for Ukraine.
Now for this discussion, we are joined by Daniel Boardman. He's a senior correspondent for the National Telegraph, joins us live from Toronto. Thank you, Daniel, for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. How realistic do you think are Russia's, specifically Lavrov's, proposed terms for a peace deal?
Well, they're certainly interesting, and it is a sign of progress in some way. Now, how much can you really trust the Russians that they mean what they say they mean, and what's the hidden message underneath this? But with a peacekeeping presence that is made up of American, British, French, and potentially, Turkish and German soldiers is rather promising. Having a defense force in charge of Ukraine's security run by Russia and China is concerning if you're the Ukrainians. So this is probably the current sticking issue that needs to be ironed out. It's definitely a start. I mean, this is a sign that Russia is capitulating, and I think Russia is now I think Russia is starting to see the writing on the wall with this war. They have really failed to make any significant gains in Ukraine. I think it was by November 2023 or by the beginning of the war, they had taken around 18% of Ukraine, and over 3 years they've managed to get to 19% of territorial Ukraine. So the Russian losses bleeding out manpower are one thing. You also have the Ukrainians now going after Russian infrastructure and their ability to expand their targeting. And you saw the failure of, Russia's been looking for, a breakthrough in the Ukrainian lines for years, and they finally got their massive breakthrough in Borovsk, and then it's turned into a disaster for them. So any prospect of a swift end to this war, of this being a special military operation, of Kiev folding and falling within a day, that's starting to, I think, leave the Russian psyche at a high level, so that I think they're trying to solve this, or maybe opening a road to a potential, what you could say, a quasi-diplomatic solution. Because, again, if you're the Ukrainians, I think rightfully so, you don't trust the Russians. And if you read the hidden meaning of Lavrov's statements from a Russian perspective, I think, or from a Russian skeptic position, you say, okay, the Russians are trying to make a group, a military alliance, and put soldiers in Ukraine, and the Russian soldiers who will be in control of the Russian and Chinese-led soldiers, well, it would have to fit the Russian standards of non-alignment. And if the Russians get to choose the standard of non-alignment, then that's going to mean pro-Russia. So all this will need to be worked out. What will the Americans do? Will Donald Trump just pressure for any type of deal because he wants to have a deal and a ceasefire because he just likes yelling peace and then there being a ceasefire? Or will there be some, legitimate negotiations? Because I do think you can get the Ukrainians to agree to a ceasefire with some sort of security guarantees. But Ukraine is not going to demilitarize. So that's out of the question. And I think they'll have to diplomatically fend off Russia in their attempt to sort of try and take Donetsk. And if they can do that, and Russia comes to the realization that they're not going to be able to take over all of Ukraine in any reasonable amount of time or without total collapse, then I think you can get some sort of peace settlement. How long will it hold? That is a question. But you could get something that acts as a bit of a glue, and I think that would benefit Ukraine and put them in a position to build up enough of internal fortifications to deter further Russian advance. So I think it's a good sign for Ukraine that the Russians are at least talking about security guarantees for Ukraine, because again, Russia is pretty set on destroying all of Ukraine and taking it over, and there is no Ukraine, and Zelensky isn't legitimate. So this is sort of foreign recognition. Russia, in order to play games, has to foreignly, in the game, recognize Ukrainian nationalism and statehood. So that is massive progress for the Ukrainians internationally.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for joining us today and sharing your insight. Thank you very much.